Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was released in 1999. It was the long-awaited and much hyped first film in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. The Star Wars prequel trilogy has proven to be quite divisive in the fanbase, and The Phantom Menace was panned by fans and critics alike 26 years ago. The prequels have had a critical re-evaluation over the last few years, and I think there is a lot to admire in this film. So join me, Steve Clark, as I discuss 10 good things about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Number 1. Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn. I'd say the MVP of The Phantom Menace is Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, played with quiet authority by Liam Neeson. Qui-Gon is a mentor to young Obi-Wan Kenobi, and right from the start he feels different to the other Jedi. He's something of a maverick, not a rebel exactly, but someone who politely ignores the rulebook when the rulebook gets in the way. Liam Neeson once described him as having a magical quality that enables him to see into the future, and that's exactly the vibe. Calm, centered, but absolutely willing to push back when the Jedi Council gets too rigid. What makes Qui-Gon so compelling is that he trusts the Force itself more than the institution that's built around it. He's guided by instinct, compassion, and a personal moral code that doesn't always line up with Jedi tradition. There's wisdom in him, but also a subtle defiance, the kind that hints he's aware of flaws in the Jedi Order long before anyone else is. Neeson gives the film a real sense of weight and gravitas, and it's his discovery of young Anakin Skywalker that sets the whole saga into motion. When he brings Anakin before the Jedi Council, he genuinely believes this boy might be the chosen one who will bring balance to the Force. But crucially, Qui-Gon sees him first and foremost as a child, not a prophecy. He wants to help Anakin and not use him. He isn't afraid to clash with the Council, or even Obi-Wan, when it comes to Anakin's future. And despite everything we know about how events unfold, the audience instinctively sides with Qui-Gon. Through Neeson's performance, Qui-Gon becomes the film's spiritual centre. He grounds the politics, balances the spectacle, and gives the story a beating heart, which makes his death at the hands of Darth Maul in that incredible three-way lightsaber duel all the more devastating. It's not just tragic, it's symbolic. In losing Qui-Gon, the Jedi also lose the one member who might have been able to prevent what's coming. But then again, if he had lived, we might not have ended up with the original trilogy, so swings and roundabouts, innit? Number 2. The production design. Whatever criticisms people might throw at The Phantom Menace, the script, the dialogue, the acting, take your pick, one thing almost everyone agrees on is this: it's a stunning film to look at. The galaxy far, far away we see here is nothing like the war-torn universe of the original trilogy. This is the Republic at its absolute peak, gleaming and prosperous, just before politics, corruption, and one very ambitious senator send it straight to hell. George Lucas said he wanted the prequels to show the galaxy before it all went to hell, and The Phantom Menace absolutely delivers on that brief. We get gorgeous new locations like Naboo with its elegant architecture, the shimmering underwater city of Otoh Gunga, and for the very first time on film, the bustling planet-wide metropolis of Coruscant. These weren't just new environments, they expanded the galaxy itself. Production designer Doug Chiang deserves a huge amount of credit. Everything feels clean, sleek, polished, a civilization in its prime. Just look at the contrast between the Naboo starfighters and the later X-Wings. Naboo designs are all curves, chrome and colour, whereas the X-Wing looks like it was built by someone who prioritised functionality over looks. When I first read about Coruscant and Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy in the early 90s, I never imagined I'd get to see it on the big screen, but thanks to advances in special effects and some gloriously ambitious production design, sitting in the cinema in 1999 felt like seeing a book come to life. It was overwhelming in the best possible way. Number 3. Practical meets digital effects. Despite the long-standing myth that The Phantom Menace is all CGI, the truth is almost the opposite. It may well be one of the last huge blockbuster movies to rely so heavily on practical craftsmanship. The filmmakers built an enormous number of miniature models, including the entire Mos Espa pod racing arena. Many physical sets were constructed too, then extended with digital elements. Full-sized pod racer cockpits were built, the Naboo hangar at Leavesden was a massive practical set, and animatronics were used throughout. If something could be built, it usually was. Of course, we can't talk about the digital work without mentioning one of Star Wars' most controversial figures, Jar Jar Binks. Love him or not, Jar Jar was one of cinema's first fully digital characters to play a major role in a live-action film. ILM's technical achievements, coupled with Ahmed Best's physical performance, genuinely paved the way for the likes of Gollum, Davy Jones, and so many CG characters that followed. Jar Jar walked so Gollum could crouch and mutter about rings, and I think that contribution often gets overlooked because of the backlash to the character of Jar Jar himself. The Phantom Menace arrived at a fascinating crossroads in visual effects history. Practical work was still dominant, but digital technology was advancing fast, breathing down its neck, heavily. Episode 1 sits right in the middle of that transition, and the result is a world that feels both tactile and expansive. Just compare how it looks to Attack of the Clones. The Geonosis climax in Episode 2, fun as it is, looks far more like a digital cartoon today. The Phantom Menace, on the other hand, still holds up remarkably well, 26 years later, precisely because that blend of practical and digital gives it weight and texture. Number 4. Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine. One of the best performances in The Phantom Menace, and honestly the entire prequel trilogy, is Ian McDiarmid in the dual role of Senator Palpatine and Darth Sidious. The mild-mannered politician from Naboo is, of course, secretly a Sith Lord, quietly orchestrating the Trade Federation's invasion to generate sympathy in the Senate and ultimately manoeuvre his way into the Chancellor's chair. It's a masterclass in manipulation. McDiarmid underplays everything in this film. Every line is measured, every smile is just a little too warm. There's always something slightly off about him, but no one in the story seems to notice. Unless, as the audience, we're projecting our future knowledge back onto the character, which is entirely possible. As Palpatine's plan gathers momentum and he becomes one of the nominees for Chancellor, he acts surprised and humble, even though it was his idea for Queen Amidala to call for a vote of no confidence in the Chancellor. And when he tells her there is no civility, only politics, he isn't offering friendly advice, he's setting the stage for his ascendance. Knowing what we know now, McDiarmid absolutely sells the idea that the most dangerous man in the galaxy is the one speaking softly, shaking hands and smiling reassuringly. What makes it so effective is how plausible it all is. Palpatine doesn't seize power in a dramatic coup, he's voted in, democratically, and that's the tragedy. And then there's that final moment with Anakin. We will watch your career with great interest. It sends a chill down the spine because you know exactly where this twisted mentorship is heading. The corruption begins right there. It's a terrific performance from McDiarmid, full stop. Now, George Lucas gets a lot of flack for his dialogue, and that goes all the way back to that famous Harrison Ford quote when they were making Star Wars, when he says, "You can type this shit, but you can't say it." But I actually think Lucas does a great job with the political material in this film, especially where Palpatine is concerned. Credit where credit is due. George Lucas absolutely nails the slow, subtle rise of a villain hiding in plain sight. Number 5. The pod race. The pod race is one of the most impressive action sequences in the entire Star Wars saga. It's a masterclass in editing, pacing, world building, and especially sound design. It's fast, chaotic, and incredibly clear, and the audience learns everything we need to know about Anakin's talent, his connection to the Force, and the sheer madness of competitive motorsport on Tatooine. It's no surprise that George Lucas included a high-speed race in the film. As a teenager growing up in Modesto, California, Lucas was absolutely car-obsessed. He spent much of his youth racing until a near-fatal accident in 1962 forced him to abandon his dream of becoming a professional driver and turn his attention toward filmmaking instead. The pod race feels like Lucas was channeling that early passion straight into Star Wars. One of the reasons the sequence works so well is the sound. Ben Burt and the audio team created a unique engine roar for every pod racer, meaning that even with your eyes shut, you could tell who was winning, who was losing, and who was about to explode. Sebulba's throbbing engines in particular are instantly recognisable. The sound design doesn't just enhance the scene, it defines it. Combine that with razor-sharp editing and clean spatial geography, and the whole sequence looks like a real sporting event rather than the typical sci-fi action scene. Visually, the race blends miniatures, CGI and practical rigs seamlessly. Those wide arena shots? Giant miniatures. The cockpit close-ups? Full-size vibrating rigs. The digital work ties it all together in a way that still looks remarkably good today. Yes, the story beats are a little cliched and familiar, Anakin has a few close calls, but of course he wins in the end, allowing Qui-Gon to win his infamous bet with Watto, but the energy and execution make up for any cliches we may see during the race. Even 26 years later, the pod race holds up beautifully. It's exciting, it's fun, and expands the Star Wars universe in a natural way, introducing new vehicles, new species, and a sense of scale we hadn't seen before in the franchise. It's easy to forget just how bold the sequence was in 1999. Whether you love or dislike other parts of the Phantom Menace, the pod race remains a fast, loud, wildly enjoyable highlight, and one of the film's most enduring achievements. Number 6. Anakin leaving Shmi. One of the most powerful emotional beats in the Phantom Menace, Anakin leaving his mother Shmi to go with Qui-Gon and begin training as a Jedi. It's a beautifully played moment, and Pernilla August deserves a lot of credit. You can feel Shmi's heartbreak simmering beneath her calm exterior. She knows she has to let Anakin go so he can have a better life, but the cost is enormous. She's remaining a slave under Watto, and she's losing the person she loves most in the world. But at least she still has C-3PO, even if he is naked. When Shmi tells Anakin to be brave, to go and not look back, it becomes one of the film's quietest yet most affecting scenes. John Williams' score does a lot of heavy lifting too. The gentle swell of music as Anakin walks away gives the moment a tragic, almost mythic weight. You can almost feel the entire saga pivot here. This goodbye plants the seeds of everything that will follow. Anakin's fear of loss, his desperate need for connection, and the emotional vulnerability Palpatine will later exploit. It's not just a sad farewell, it's the beginning of a path that leads directly to his future downfall. It's a subtle scene, but a surprisingly powerful one, and it ties the prequel trilogy to the original saga in a way that only gets richer with hindsight. Number 7. The politics of the Star Wars galaxy. Yes, the opening crawl of the Phantom Menace may have raised a few eyebrows back in 1999. After the Civil War drama of the original trilogy, learning that the taxation of trade routes was in dispute wasn't exactly the thrilling setup fans were wanting or expecting. But, and this is the surprise, the political layer of the Phantom Menace is actually one of the film's greatest strengths. George Lucas shows us how democracies don't fall because of dramatic coups or stormtroopers marching through the streets. They fall because of bureaucracy, manipulation, and complacency. On the surface, the Republic looks like it's at its height. In reality, it's paralysed by red tape. When Naboo is invaded and Queen Amidala travels to Coruscant to plead for help, her efforts get swallowed up by endless procedure. Palpatine knows this will happen. In fact, he's counting on it. The political system is so bloated it can't recognise danger even when it's waving a metaphorical red flag right in front of them. The Jedi, meanwhile, are just as rigid and complacent. They're so convinced of their own infallibility that they can't even imagine the Sith returning. Mace Windu confidently declares that the Sith couldn't possibly come back without the Jedi knowing, which is exactly the kind of arrogance that blinds them. They spend more time in council chambers and Senate discussions than they do out in the galaxy, connecting with the people they're meant to protect. This combination, a paralysed Senate, an out-of-touch Jedi Order, and a master manipulator sitting in the middle of it all, is precisely what allows the Republic to crumble and the Sith to rise again. Palpatine sees the cracks in the system, and he slips through them effortlessly. George Lucas has always said that Star Wars has political leanings, and The Phantom Menace is the film whose themes step fully into the spotlight. When you revisit it as an adult, the Senate scenes aren't boring at all. They're genuinely chilling. You can see how exactly the Republic collapses, and more disturbingly, how easy it was for that to happen. So yes, for all the jokes about trade disputes, taxes and blockades, the political story in The Phantom Menace gives the entire prequel trilogy a layer of weight and realism that makes the fall of the Republic feel both plausible and tragically inevitable. Number 8. The three-way lightsaber duel. The climactic duel between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of the greatest lightsaber battles in the entire Star Wars saga. Compared to the duels of the original trilogy, this one is on a completely different level. It's frenetic, athletic, precise, and beautifully choreographed. George Lucas wanted a fighting style that showed the Jedi at their absolute peak, so he turned to stunt coordinator Nick Gillard to create an entirely new form of lightsaber combat. Gillard described his approach by saying the fights were like chess, where every move was a check. I don't play chess, so I'll take Nick's word for that, but the point stands. Every strike in this duel has intention behind it. Gillard believed Jedi swordplay would be a fusion of classical fighting techniques mixed with some unexpected influences like tennis swings and tree chopping. On screen, the differences between the fighters' styles are instantly clear. Darth Maul moves like a predator, fast, vicious, coiled with aggression. Qui-Gon is patient and methodical, relying on experience and calm. And Obi-Wan is fast, eager, emotional, still learning, still reactive, and still wanting to prove himself. One of the standout moments in the duel is the force field corridor deep within the Naboo power generator. It's a brilliant bit of visual storytelling. Qui-Gon uses the enforced pause to meditate and center himself. Maul paces like an irritated animal, itching to attack, and Obi-Wan is left helplessly watching, unable to reach his master. When the fields finally open and Maul strikes Qui-Gon down, Obi-Wan's composure shatters. As Maul taunts him, Obi-Wan channels his anger, skimming closer to the dark side than he probably realizes, and ultimately defeats Maul. Well, defeats might be a generous term. Somehow, Maul returned. But that's a story for another time. The choreography, combined with John Williams' incredible Duel of the Fates cue, more on that in a minute, elevates this scene into something iconic. Even after decades of Star Wars content, this duel remains one of the absolute best lightsaber battles the franchise ever produced. Number 9. Duel of the Fates. It wouldn't be a 10 Good Things video if I didn't talk about the score somewhere, and John Williams delivers one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars music ever written. Duel of the Fates has an epic, almost mythic quality. The Sanskrit choir gives it an ancient, ritualistic feel, as if the universe is holding its breath while something monumental is being decided. And in a way, it is. George Lucas has explained that the duel isn't really about who wins the lightsaber fight, it's about the outcome and the ramifications for the galaxy. This moment determines who will guide Anakin, which in turn shapes the future of the galaxy. Williams takes that idea and somehow distills it into a single piece of music. The result is operatic, tense, unforgettable, and instantly iconic. It's no surprise that Williams brought it back in the other prequels during key emotional moments. It appears briefly in Attack of the Clones when Anakin is searching for his mother, a sequence that ends in tragedy, and more powerfully, it underscores part of the Anakin versus Obi-Wan duel in Revenge of the Sith. Whenever it appears, it signals that something enormous is unfolding. One of my clearest memories from the spring of '99 was the Duel of the Fates music video constantly playing on MTV, VH1 and The Box. It was everywhere, packed with behind the scenes footage, lightsabers, choir shots, everything. I must have seen that video 100 times before I even saw the film. So when I finally sat in the cinema and those first notes kicked in during the lightsaber duel, instant goosebumps. Lucasfilm and Fox tried this marketing gimmick again for episodes 2 and 3. We had Across the Stars for episode 2 and Battle of the Heroes for episode 3, but it didn't seem as successful as the Duel of the Fates video. This was probably due to the incredible amount of hype that surrounded the release of The Phantom Menace. That level of hype for a Star Wars movie has never been repeated, even 10 years ago when The Force Awakens was released. How the hell has it been 10 years since The Force Awakens? Duel of the Fates isn't just a great track, it's the musical soul of the prequel trilogy. And honestly, if you walked out of the cinema in 1999 humming anything, it was this. Number 10. Gillette, the best a Jedi can get. And finally, the most unexpectedly iconic prop in the entire movie, the Jedi communicator that is quite literally a Gillette Ladies Sensor Excel razor dressed up with some Star Wars thingos and greeblies. It's the sort of prop-making magic that only Star Wars can get away with. You're watching a serious Jedi mission unfold, Qui-Gon is discussing Anakin's midichlorian levels and learning important stuff, and somewhere in the back of your mind there's a voice whispering, "Mate, that's a razor." Qui-Gon's talking into a razor. It's charming, it's silly, it's very on brand for late 90s prop design, and honestly it just makes the galaxy feel that tiny bit more handmade. Truly, the best a Jedi can get. So those are my 10 good things about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments below. I'm hoping that this video may encourage some of you to go back and give The Phantom Menace another try. After my last video on Star Trek the Motion Picture, I had a few people say that they would give it another go, or tell me that they actually always loved the film. I'm hoping that this video encourages similar reactions for The Phantom Menace. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel so you can see whenever a new video pops up. There will be plenty more 10 Good Things videos to come. If you could also share this video with your friends, that would be awesome. I'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, good night.